Juris Vodcast with Scott Pearce.
Today we consider the Supreme Court gun control decision, another 5-4 split with Justice Kennedy voting in the majority along with Thomas, Alito, Roberts, and Scalia. Today the court threw out Washington, D.C.'s ban on handgun ownership and its trigger lock requirement. The court held that the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, in fact, does grant private citizens the right to possess a firearm, unconnected to any militia, and to use that firearm for traditionally lawful purposes, such as self-defense within the home. Justice Scalia wrote the majority opinion, and it is extremely rational and scholarly. As one who usually finds himself excoriating Justice Scalia, I admit I'm a little surprised. As usual, I counsel you not to take my word for it. Go read the decision yourself. While you're at it, go read the case of U.S. versus Miller from 1939. That's an important case that the majority and the dissent argue about. My view is that Justice Scalia's interpretation of the case is superior to that of Justice Stevens, who wrote the dissenting opinion, which was joined by Justices Ginsburg, Souter, and Breyer. In this decision, Justice Scalia and his colleagues in the majority do a masterful job reviewing the Second Amendment and the various court cases that touch on it, as well as other relevant history from the various states. In so doing, these justices are treating the Constitution as a living document, one in which rights evolve over time. It's impossible not to observe that this method of interpretation is exactly the opposite of strict constructionism. It's also worth mentioning that there are many historical references to one traditional American value that has gone by the wayside during the last 65 years, our historic refusal to waste time and money on a standing army. Who among us seriously thinks that our vast military-industrial complex is really good for us as a society? A serious return to American traditions has to involve dismantling our war machine and turning our energies to more humane and imaginative ends. The majority opinion focuses on Americans' right to have a firearm for self-defense. Another idea, just below the surface, is this: Americans want to own guns to defend themselves from their own government. Other decisions by this same majority, shredding the rest of the Bill of Rights, make it more likely that the Second Amendment will, one day, serve as the final check on an out-of-control police and military establishment.
Juris Vodcast is a production of Nuclear Podcasting. Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives.